Recording has started. So yeah, letting everybody know that the recording has started. Everybody, yeah. So I can see some bright and shiny faces here. Thank you for keeping your camera on. So let's start with another poll on how long you have been in a leadership role, right? So I know people are joining here, so thank you for those who are joining us. In the meantime, let me quickly launch the poll. Let me know if you can see it on your screen. Before we jump into the adaptive leadership, I just wanted to get a quick sense of where we are in our leadership journey. Are you just getting started, 0 to 3 years, just the entry level roles in leadership? Are you settling in the leadership arena? It has been a while. You have been doing leadership roles for the last 9 to 15 years, or it's quite some time now, or you are almost forgot the count of how many years you have been a leader. So just help me understand where you are in your journey of the leadership. Right. I can see some good responses here. Once you're done with the poll, you can close by using the cross button at the top of the pop-up. It doesn't go away automatically. Hopefully Microsoft fixes it soon. Can't select, but I'm in the second option. Point noted. Yeah, so we have a large audience who are in the getting started phase. Then another majority of the audience are in the settling in space. Then some of us are, it's been a while. Some of them are like quite some time now. And I also see, some of them are also saying they forgot the count. So we have a, I would say a very diverse group of people today. So I would also leverage some of the wisdom from the group in terms of, things that we are going to talk, because there is no right or wrong when it comes to leadership. It's just the point in time or the context in which we operate, which is what makes a leader a leader. So that's how I have learned so far the art and science of leadership. So let me quickly, start with the next point on our topic around what are we going to cover today. So as I was talking about, this is a very, very condensed view because the topic of adaptive leadership is really very, very in depth, right? So when we talk about adaptive leadership, there are 4 different aspects to it, which I will cover shortly. But we are going to cover all 4 of them, but not in detail. So, but even not at a high level where you can't understand, but not at the deeper level where we'll go by item, right? So I will try to mix and match based on my experience of running this class, what worked for me, and based on your questions and answers, we can dwell deeper into a particular topic, right? So what are we going to cover today from the agenda? The context, just to understand why adaptive leadership is really, really important. Then the definition of adaptive leadership and elements. I will also share the adaptive leadership compass and why adaptive leadership is the preferred way to go forward in the hybrid work models that we all are operating in, and also talk about some of the unique features of the full program that we run, so that if any one of you are interested in joining that and experiencing the detailed in and outs of adaptive leadership 4 facets, those who can actually get more information about it, and then make up your mind if you want to continue this journey of adaptive leadership. All right. So you have already told me how long you have been in a leadership role. So thank you very much for that. Now, let us quickly understand the context in which we are currently operating, right? And I usually keep this, previously it used to be 5 pillars. Now the 6th pillar is recently added after my last masterclass in somewhere in July, which I ran for another one of the clients here in Singapore. So number one is every leader, right, currently, or every person in an organization, they have a mandate to transform. And what we are seeing is even disruptors are being disrupted, right? So if you see 5 or 6 years ago, Uber used to be a disruptor. Now Uber has been disrupted by Grab. Grab has been disrupted by somebody else, and that journey is continuing. Same with payment industry, right? So you might be calling one of the application as a disruptor. Now you have plethora of other options who are disrupting the disrupted already, right? And customer expectations are ever increasing. In fact, today may be the lowest possible expectation that a customer has. As we go tomorrow, the expectations are just going to increase. Second point is the environment or the organizations that we operate in, right? So we are, no matter what we call it or no matter how you want to leanify the organization, we all are working either in a matrix, hierarchical, or a bureaucratic workplace. And what it means is, there are approaches to performance review, there are approaches to people management, there are approaches to the design of the organization. Fundamentally, any organization that you work with, no matter how the structure is, they are interconnected. No function or unit or a project is an island in any organization. And that's why, as the context that we are operating, it is totally interconnected. And that means functional interdependencies are there, which needs to be broken. If you do not break it, half of the time you won't be able to realize your own potential, and that drives a lot of frustration and suboptimal outcomes in the organization. Then third one is the millennial expectations, right? The generation which you are leading currently is very different than the generation you used to lead maybe a decade ago or even 2 decades ago, right? Because I think the new generation, they demand purpose or profit. They need purposeful work, right? For them, it's not about the quality, lifestyle. It's about quality of life. They are looking at fluid and balanced work, right, where they can enjoy at the same time, have fun at work, and also do meaningful work. And that's what the millennials expect. It's a very different mindset that we, many of the leaders who have been in the leadership roles, they struggle with this mindset because it comes with balance of caution and curiosity, balance of fun and actual hard work, right? And some of these words that we used to see, hard work, loyalty, all those, it doesn't exist in this generation's dictionary. So how do we kind of see through this and then engage this generation on a meaningful work? Then hybrid work culture, it's nothing new. Everybody has experienced what COVID brought us. But what it means is work location is an individual preference now. It is no more a mandate that, if you mandate it, then you see the other mandate from the employees, which is basically the attrition, right? We all heard about the great resignation and the sub consequences of that. So everybody, there is a huge and greater demand for flexibility. Gig economy, this is something that is now kind of becoming mainstream. It used to be there, but now after COVID it has taken the major front seat. Anywhere, anytime, right? On demand plug and play capacity or on demand plug and pay capability. So previously organizations, they never thought about expanding their geographical boundaries from an employee perspective or hiring somebody. Now people have their global workplaces across the globe. Even startups, they hire left, right, and center at every location. There are startups who are promoting that you can hire at any location and they will support the entire process of compliance, salary, and all that, right? So, and one of the and we as a startup, we do that, right? We have employees in Philippines, we have employees in India, we have employees in Poland. That's the gig economy for us. It changes the job of a leader completely and the context. Last but not the least, sustainability is in all aspects. This is something that is happening more and more, and there is a greater appreciation for it, right? Even customers are looking for sustainable aspects, right? So when they're purchasing products, there is higher appreciation for it. So this is the context that we are living in. And what that means is, as leaders, we also need to look at what is changing for us because of the context around this changing. Right, and I wanted to put some data points to it, right? So instead of talking through it, what I thought is, let's understand, right, what are some of the business priorities? Because at the end of the day, most of us are doing the job of a leader in a professional setting, right, in an organization. And in an organization, the first thing people ask is, what's your business priority? Now, if you see here, right, from Gartner's, the top 10 strategic business priorities, they are basically changed from what it used to be in 2020. Some of it is because of COVID, some of it is because of how the business is functioning, some of it is because of the political scenario we are working in, and some of it is in general how the modern business models are evolving, right? So if you see workplace, for example, it is up from fifth to now third place, right? So the importance of having a supportive workplace is top 10 priorities. It's the top three, right? Now, if you talk about environment and sustainability, which I put down as the context, right? It is basically from 13. It was not as part of top 10 priorities. Now it is in top 10 in just 2 years, right? And my prediction is it will go in top three in the next 3 to 5 years, where every leader, they will be measured upon how sustainably they are driving business outcomes. Gone are the days where you can drive business outcome at any cost. So you have to balance it with purpose, profit, people, all three pillars of sustainability. So just to put this context and data together, right? What we are essentially asking from ourselves, that we cannot avoid uncertainties. There will always be uncertainties. But what we need is a mechanism and approach in terms of navigating our way and bring the team along so that we can deliver collective outcomes together. Because a leader, if he reaches alone at a destination, he is not a leader. He is just an individual traveler. But a leader is leader when you have a common goal and you take the team along with you, when you make the team successful. And that's what this whole concept of adaptive leadership is all about, right? So before I go into the details, let me quickly run another poll. And what I want you to help me understand is, right, um, how do you define the concept of leadership, right? So the simple question is, if I come from another planet where there is no concept of a leader or leadership, and I am asking you, can you please help me define what does leadership mean or what a leader means? So that response, if you can help me put down on this poll. So I see empathy as first response. I hope you can see my poll window, a pop-up. Value addition, guidance, growth. I see 4 responses so far. Please keep adding your responses. This is where we challenge our assumptions. Is it what you think it is? So that's the question we are trying to answer here, right? So synergy, then motivation, collaboration, guidance. All right, servant. Very nice. Total 11 response, 14. Okay. Direction. So direction is appearing to be at the forefront right now. Unity, awareness, cooperation. Very nice. 21 responses so far. Thank you. Please, those who haven't responded, please help to respond so that we understand what you think leadership is all about. Okay. Thought leadership, courage, emotional intelligence, unconditional support. Sai is saying empathy. Yeah, empathy is already here. Perfect. Synergy, selfless. All right, very nice. Some of these words are really, I would say, very, very nicely elaborated in academic context, but in practice, we seldom see that, especially selfless leadership. You will seldom see it. You might have very handful of examples on who are those selfless leaders that you might have encountered in your life, or you might have inspired from. So thank you very much. It's 43 responses, and I see mostly it is about influence, empowerment, inspiration, leading by example, collaboration, synergy, thought leadership, awareness, and collective success. So yes, all of those. And what else? Right. So that's where you might have already gone through multiple leadership sessions in past, or those who are just starting their journey get ready. You will be, either asked to or forced to attend some of these leadership trainings in by your organization, either mandatorily or voluntarily. But at the end of the day, all the point is you might be gone through multiple different leadership frameworks. So there are tons of them, right? If you search on Google leadership frameworks, you might find grow model, peak performance model, situational leadership, authentic leadership, and then there are tons of authors who have done um, really good work around leadership. So the point that we have is, why do we need all this material or this context on leadership? Because if the leader cannot create collective outcomes, it is not an individual defeat, it's the defeat of entire team or the organization. The impact at which leaders operate is the most, as opposed to just a team operating, right? So if the leader doesn't function well, it has an impact on the team, on the organization. And most of the time, when we see that leaders are not operating, it's not that they don't know, it's that they know, but they have blind spots, right? So one of the things that we see with the leaders who have proven time and again, right? There are leaders who have been working in the industry for so many years, right? It's not that they don't know. They have been and they have lived it. They have seen success. They have seen failures. They have been through the overall journey and path, right? But what we see is, for every leader, including me, including you, and people who are here on this call, right? There are always blind spots that we are unable to figure out ourselves. And the reason for that is, some of the most commons are like overconfidence. When you think you know it and you try to do it in the same way you always did, right? And we also call it rotten leadership or rut, basically, that comes along with you thinking and biasing your actions and decision based on what worked in past, right? So then there is another one, which is ultra positivity. No matter what happens, I am totally positive. So this is basically called, again, masking your behavior. If you're ultra positive, all the time positive, you are not recognizing the problems. You are basically avoiding problems by staying ultra positive, right? Then third one is power. I think everybody understand what that means. Showing appreciation, right? So leaders, they are really um, one of the things that we see as a blind spot is not showing appreciation much. Also admitting when they are wrong, basically self realization, right? Because it, when you have power, when you have the position, it also comes up with the what I call a psychological safety for the leaders. If you admit that you are wrong, am I being perceived as somebody who is weak if I admit my mistake, right? And that notion or that phobia that you develop as part of you being a leader is something that is a blind spot again. All you can do is try it, and then you will know whether that is working for you or not, right? Then truly listening, and I will share more about the listening aspects of leadership when we go into the four aspects of this adaptive leadership. And then honesty with self and others, right? So and I basically, when I coach leaders, I tell them, and more often than not, stop telling lies to yourself, because that's the biggest blind spot that you have. You know where you stand, you know what the problems are, but you do not basically tell that honestly to yourself. So those are some of the blind spots that I have observed personally over the last 12 plus years. And also when I talk to other leadership coaches, you will see this list very common. I mean, you might call it in different terms, but the intent of those actually, it limits to the 7 or 8 things that you are seeing on the screen. But then the question is, how do we fix these blind spots, right? So it is not one thing, it is not one single way of fixing this. There are multifaceted approach, and that's what we call it as adaptive leadership, right? So it comes with vision, it comes with values, it comes with meta skills, and it comes with performance. Right now, these are the 4 pillars of adaptive leadership. So let me quickly go through and then talk about it, what it means, and then I will go into each pillars and why there are 4 pillars, and why do we do what we are calling as adaptive leadership, right? So it's basically, if you see, it's in subtle art of influencing and inspiring others, especially during uncertain times when people are not comfortable moving forward, when people are unclear about the directions, right? At those point in times, when you are influencing and inspiring a team of people, a set of people to achieve a shared outcome. Now, how do we do that? Through continuous learning and adopting throughout the journey. There is no one answer. When as a leader, there is no single approach to inspiring and influencing people. It's again, you need to continuously learn and adopt yourself as well as a leader, right? What might have worked last week may not work this week, because things around you are changing, people around you are changing, they are also learning new things, they are also going through a lot of uncertainties themselves, right? So when you look at this in try to summarize what I just told you, right? I mean, some of the words came when I asked you to define leadership, right? Influencing, inspiring, achieving a collective outcome. I am calling it a shared outcome. Continuous learning. This is very, very important, because I think most of the leaders, this is one aspect which we kind of always discount off, right? Oh, I know it all. I don't need to learn more, right? Oh, I have seen it in the presentation. I have seen it on Google. I have seen it in the video. But have you actually practiced it? Have you actually applied it? Have you adopted your style? And most often than not, you will find that no, we haven't, right? And that's something that we want to kind of continue with. Then the second aspect of it is also about the outcomes, right? So most of the leadership frameworks which you talk about, right, they will talk about accountability, they will talk about commitment, but they do not look at performance as a goal for the team, for yourself, and for the organization. It talks about the individual as a leader, right? So whether you take situational leadership, it's all about the leader and the self outcomes that they generate. If you talk about the grow model, it's about how you coach and create performance in another individual, right? But when we are looking at collective outcomes, we need to look not just at the team level but also at the organizational level, and that's what the adaptive leadership that we have here brings together, right? So if I need to summarize this, right, the way I summarize it, it's basically leading with certainty in uncertain times. That's what adaptive leadership is, which is the paramount need of today's scenario or the context in which we are operating. Now let's talk about these four things: vision, values, meta skills, and performance, right? Some of you might not know what a meta skill is, and that's okay. I will be explaining that along the way. But before we go into the details of vision, I would like to understand another poll from you. Name one leader who inspired you the most, right? And let me quickly run the poll for you. All righty. The poll is coming on your screen. Name one leader who inspired you the most. Nelson Mandela. Very nice. Ratan Tata. Mr. Narendra Modi. Yep. Mr. Abdul Kalam. Steve Jobs. Yeah. What else? 8 answers so far. Martin Luther King. Okay. Elon Musk. Michelle Obama. Very nice. Okay. Oprah Winfrey. All right. Piyush Gupta. Wow. Very nice. I'll pick one or two of you to kind of help me understand why did you pick what you pick here. what made you think that this leader is the one who inspired you? Any one of you can unmute yourself, or I can help you unmute if you can put a hands reaction here. Who wants to go? Who wants to explain why did they choose the leader that they have? Rajesh Darak. Yeah, okay, all right, Rajesh. Let me quickly find you here. Rajesh, and I have unmuted you. Rajesh, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So, what was your answer, Rajesh? What did you pick?
So actually, I gave two, three. Uh, one of
I
them.
asked. This is not correct. I asked you for one. You gave me three, but it's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Please go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm
Go
sorry
ahead.
for that. Yeah, I'm
No
sorry
worries.
for
No
that.
worries.
Yeah.
No worries. No, I'm just
So
kidding. Just
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, actually, I gave Nelson Mandela as well as Martin Luther King as well as Azim Premji.
Uh-huh.
So okay, I'll talk of Azim Premji. So he does his business very ethically. So that's one great thing about him. And apart from that, he has, I think, donated almost like some 90% of his wealth or something, which is absolutely phenomenal. So these are two things which for which I admire him.
Thank you very much, Rajesh, for sharing that. Right. So you said he does his business ethically, and that inspires you. Right. Thank you very much for sharing. Rachna also want to share. So yeah, I'll just go. Just give me a minute. Rachna. Yeah. Now you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi, Sandeep. And
Hi,
hi,
Rachna.
everybody. Well, I chose Ratan Tata, and I see in him an amalgamation of vision as well as values, and which are live to the highest credibility and they deliver what they say. And I think for a leader, it is very, very important that there be the transparency, and he lives the values that he is trying to imbibe in others.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much, Rachna, for that. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Right. So, if you see, right, the theme that we generally see, if throughout this notion of who is the one leader or who are the leaders who inspires you, the lowest minimum denominator is their vision for how they want to operate, how they want to conduct themselves, how they want to conduct their business, right? So when Rajesh talked about ethical business practices by Mr. Azim Premji, or when you talked about how Mr. Ratan Tata actually looks at it holistically, actually it's their vision, right? That's how they have set their vision. Plus, the other point that Rachna touched upon is the values, which we will also cover, right? So, but it starts with the vision, right? Because Elon Musk, right? Most of the time we inspire by the vision that Elon Musk has as a person, not by the physical presence of Elon Musk, right? By the vision that they paint, right? So like Martin Luther King, right? Why we get inspired by them? Because the vision and the vision, how they communicate the vision, right? That's what basically makes it very, very interesting and very, very inspiring for us, right? So that's what I wanted to touch upon, that first and foremost, right? Without vision, we call it handicapped leadership, right? So if you do not have a vision, then half of the time all you are doing is you are running in all directions, and the team is not clear, or you're not sending clear messages to the team, and all you are driving is busyness, not business, right? So if you do not have a vision, you will see those leaders without vision, they drive a lot of busyness in the organization, but they do not drive the business outcomes that we want them to drive. And the differentiation factor is the vision, right? So the ability to visualize and articulate, right? So one thing is to visualize, another thing is to articulate, and a leader must be both. Because if you have a vision but if you cannot articulate that, people won't be following you, right? So if you want to rally people together, you need to able to articulate the vision properly, right? So rallies people together, motivates people. It creates shared understanding of bigger picture, right? The moment you put a vision at the forefront, people will rally together and they will try to find solution for the challenges, right? So whether you take the Eiffel Tower, how it was created, or Empire Building in New York, how it was created in record time, or the mission Apollo, right? How everybody, without even, at that point in time when they started mission Apollo, nobody has a clue how to go to even beyond 35,000 feet in the sky. But then we set up a vision to be the first one to reach to moon, and the entire country came together, and then the entire world came together, in fact, right? So that's what vision does to people. Vision basically creates a shared understanding, bigger picture, and it also helps to guide and stay on the course in times of uncertainty, right? Because when you have a vision, no journey is all positive or all go green hunky dory. There will always be challenges, there will always be uncertainties, right? So even journeys that you take every day, there will be uncertainties on the way, right? So people like in Singapore who travel from MRT, there is a lot of uncertainty. If there is a MRT failure, right, how do you basically take that into consideration when it happens, and how do you adapt to that situation, right? Similarly, in India, when you are stuck in traffic in Bangalore or Chennai, or when you are stuck in a long airline queue in New York or Sydney for that matter, right? So again, having that vision and guiding compass is very, very important as a leader. So that's why it is number one. The first and foremost adaptive leadership facet is vision, right? It enables adaptive culture overall. Then secondly, what is the second point is values, right? So again, values, everybody understands values differently. Sometimes they think that values are something that the organizations define, but values are something that as a leader we need to internalize within ourselves, right? It's something that you are really looking to imbibe into your actions, behaviors, and decisions, right? Those are your values. So very quickly, if you see why values are essential, right? I mean, we talk about values all the time. So it basically guides your decision, it creates clarity, it also guides your actions, right? And values create connection. When you have common values, like for example, when an honest person meets another honest person, you see that there is a shared connection between them, right? So values guide your true north. Now, if we need to combine these five and then keep it in a way which is easily understood, right? If you ask these five questions when you have a value system, right? So the first one is, am I willing to fight for it, right? So you might say, yeah, my value is, for example, let's say courage. So are you really willing to fight for the courage? That means, are you really willing to go and then also having sacrifice for showing courage? So when you are speaking with courage, when you are showing courage, if let's say a reciprocation happens or retaliation happens, are you willing to sacrifice for it? Are you willing to pay for it? Are you willing to spend time on it? Because you won't get the value right for the first time, right? You will have to continuously understand value, and those who have a value system, right? That's why this continuous learning is very, very important, right? In many a times I have seen leaders, they are very good readers, right? Especially those who are visionary and whom everybody gets inspired, like Bill Gates, for example, right? So if you see, one of the habits Bill Gates has is he reads one book at least 3 to 4 times at different occasions. Same book. Why does he does it? Because every time he reads it, he learns something new from that book. Because the book is not changing, but the topics and the interpretation of that topic will change over period of time, right? So that's something that that's what I mean by, am I willing to spend time on it, right? So when I understand a value in certain way, when you spend time on it, you get to see the value system evolve. It might not change, but it evolves, right? Understanding of a same value, you might broaden your perspective, you might broaden your actions and decisions and behaviors on it. And do I actually live it every day, right? If not, then it's not your value, it's somebody else, right? And you are trying to imbibe or adopt it. So that's very simple 5 questions test that we put forward, right? So now I know we are only 90 minutes in 90-minute session, but generally in the full day workshop, what we do is we generally go through the value system and we try to map it on all these 5 criterias or 5 question parameters, right? And then we see okay, what is it that is not your real value, and what is it that is your real value, and where you need to spend time on. So what it basically drives it gives you a full visibility of your own values. Number three is, what are the values that we think are really, really important for adaptive leadership? And again, it's a very detailed and deep slide. So generally, even the arrows where it is put on, it directly connects to the human body from where it originates. Uh, but I'll keep it at a very, very high level, right? So there are 7 values, starting with empathy, commitment, courage, passion, trust, curiosity, and respect. Now, these 7 values are really critical in today's environment and even in the new normal as we move forward, right? So, if you do not have empathy specifically, right? So, this is one of the key, I would say, superpowers of in today's world, right? If you do not have empathy, you will have hard time connecting with others, hard time understanding what others are going through, and hard time actually creating a network that can deliver something, or even forget about creating a network, even just making sure your team is able to connect with you, right? So the glue of people in today's world, the glue that binds people together is empathy, right? Commitment is something that you need to abide by, which you do to yourself, right? Courage is again comes from your spine. That's why it is tangled at that angle, right? That if you show courage and if you want to do courage, that's how it is. Passion comes from heart. If you're not passionate about it, soon sooner or later, the willingness to try something, willingness to do something and create something meaningful, that will die, right? And then you are there just for the sake of doing it. And we see a lot of those leaders in workplace, especially those who do not have passion, but they have just a dry drive, as I call it, to do something just for the sake of doing it. Yeah, I'm doing it because my boss asked it, or I'm doing it because my company asked to do it. I'm doing it because, yeah, that's what we do here, right? But that, without doing it, without passion, if you do it, results will never be exponential, or results will never be optimal. You will always have suboptimal. You combine passion with curiosity, you get a lot of innovation, you get a lot of open culture, right? Because when you are curious, automatically you are open to try new ideas. You are open to combine things together. You are open to listen to people more curiously, right? And then that drives trust and respect. So we generally draw a dependency map between these values and show in a class how this combines together. Like, for example, how empathy connects to courage, how empathy connects to curiosity and passion together, and what kind of outcomes you will get when you connect this, right? When you connect respect, empathy, and trust together, what kind of outcomes you get. And that's what is generally, what we talk about values when we do it in the full day class, right? So now here, what I will do is I will get through one single value, which is empathy, and I will try to show you what empathy actually drives, right? In some statistical facts, and also some of the videos that I will share, which you can watch later to gain more understanding on how empathy drives high performance, right? So this is a TED talk from this fella. The video link is here, and he talks about how empathy creates more happier workplace, right? And there is a study done by this providesupport.com on the attrition, on the current great resignation piece that we all are experiencing in the industry, right? So if you are having a leader who practices empathy on a day-to-day basis, 92% of the employees would be more likely to stay within the company. This is a mind-blowing revelation if you see, right? Nobody is asking for more salary. Nobody is asking for, give me this or that. What people are asking leaders is, have some empathy around what we do here, have some understanding, have some appreciation for the situation in which we operate, the context in which we work. 92% is a huge number, and this is not a study which is done as a fluke, right? The study link and everything is there. You can go and read in details about it. But I would highly encourage you to take this study with you and then look at all the parameters. right? I mean, in a nutshell, when you talk about empathy, these are the four things, right? Belonging, care, connection, and motivation, right? So people get motivated in different ways, right? When you talk about motivate, it's not always about coming on, coming in a meeting and then showing all the green rosy picture to everybody. That's not what motivation means. Motivations means also hearing what other people are saying or the context they are operating, right? Sometimes doing that only motivates people, that what our leaders are really actually they care about our work. So that's what empathy is. So we'll move to the next one, the third aspect of adaptive leadership, which is meta skills. Now this is something that which is very near to my heart, and this is something that I always so we spend quite some time on this six meta skills during our regular workshop, almost a day, or around 4 to 6 hours to go through each one of them, because what this gives is, this gives you a practical actionable plan, each one of these, right? So we call it meta skill because meta skill is a higher order skill which enables you to better learn other skills and improve your existing ones, right? So when you talk about, let's say, take an example, active listening. When you are looking at active listening, it is not an standalone skill in itself, right? When you are looking at active listening, it is basically improving your concentration, it is improving your ability to understand, it is improving your ability to read and analyze the situation, and many other skills, right? So that's why it is called a meta skill, right? So we'll be going through one each at a time, and I'll also share some tips which you can actually take back from this lesson and start practicing it from tomorrow in your workplace, right? So let's talk about active listening. It's actually a superpower in today's world, right? Everybody one of us, right? Especially before COVID, the situation was bad enough, right? The attention span was around 20 seconds. And now after COVID, the attention span is somewhere around 9 seconds, right? So the only time people are listening attentively to you is at most 9 seconds, right? So how difficult it is for a leader to be, practice this listening. So that's why we call it as a superpower in today's world, right? When you look at this, it needs very much, extraordinary efforts to practice active listening. Why I say so? Because as a leader, if you are doing, and especially in this hybrid work environment, right? Even when our team meeting is going on, somebody is pinging us, somebody is sending a WhatsApp, somebody is sending a SMS, somebody is calling on another phone, right? Or some other meeting pop-up is coming. So you are never 100% attentive to the meeting or the person you are dealing with. And that hampers your network, that hampers your relationships, right? So one of the things that as a leader, we always recommend is make sure you're practicing active listening. That means you are basically 100% focusing on the conversation in hand. What it will help you is, it will help you drive better engagement and understanding of the teams and the people, right? By looking at their behaviors, actions, and also their body language, also their tone of the voice. And there are many facets of understanding, how you can better understand. So one thing that goes without saying is, most of the leaders, and in fact most of us, we generally go in meetings and we listen to respond. We do not listen to understand. So if you start listening for understanding, right, that is something I want you to start doing from tomorrow when you go back, right? So when somebody is talking about something, try to understand what they are talking about rather than trying to respond back to them. If you do it at least 5 or 6 times in a day, I can guarantee you in next 3 to 6 months, you will be a very good listener, and your leadership skills will go multifold. Your connections in the team will go multifold just by doing this, right? Instead of listening to respond, listen to understand. That's my tip on this meta skill. All right. So the next one, let's go to the giving and receiving feedback. As humans, we are not really good at it. It's not just about leaders. I think giving and receiving feedback is something that we all struggle with. And that's why we call it, very, very important communication meta skill, right? The ability to give, receive, and solicit constructive feedback is an important communication meta skills. It is required for almost all the roles and almost in every industry, right? So it promotes learning and growth. And one of the things that we see more and more, especially companies who innovate faster, especially companies where you have innovative work culture, right? Especially people who are releasing faster, they are very good at giving and receiving feedback, right? So if you the practical tip that I want to share it on, and I know many of you understand why it is important. So generally, what happens giving feedback, we generally don't give feedback that often. So frequency is a problem. Then when we give, we are not really very honest. And if we are honest, we don't know how to say it in a manner which does not threaten or does not upset the other person. So these are the three key challenges I have seen when you are giving the feedback. When we are receiving the feedback, we are always into the respond mode or defend mode, right? We do not listen it to kind of improve. So one thing I would share a tip on when you are especially on the receiving feedback mode, right? That is the most important part, right? As a leader, we should be open to receive feedback at any given point in time, in lifts, in our walks, in coffee, or during our lunches, during our team meetings, no matter wherever you find a chance to get a feedback, you should grab it. Now, what you do with it is something that you need to decide, right? So feedback, like for example, right now this is a Diwali time. Most of us who are celebrating Deepavali or those who celebrate Christmas, what do you do with the gifts that you get at the Christmas? Do you use every one of them? Those who are useful to you, you use them. Those who are not, you keep them in the store or you keep them in your cupboard. Same is with the feedback, right? So feedback is a gift. When you receive it, you do good with what you want to do, what you like to do with, right? Or what you really like to work on. If it is not relevant to you, still you acknowledge the person for and thank them for giving you the feedback, because at least they have shown that empathy as well as courage to come to you and talk to you about what they felt about it. So this is something that I want you to practice more. My tip is, do not discard any feedback. Keep all the feedback as gifts with you, filter them, and act on some of it which you think you can do something about. All right. So that's giving and receiving feedback. Third one, creating a culture of safety. Right. So in most of the innovation and growth driven industries, right, a culture of safety is very, very important. Right. And when we talk about culture of safety, I'm not just talking about the buzzword nowadays, right? Psychological safety. It's also about physical safety, right? So in the industries like construction, in the industries like oil and gas, in the industries like manufacturing, physical safety is also utmost important, right? So because most of this concept of adopt agile leadership and all that, they generally originate and die in IT. That's where we always give enough importance or more importance maybe to the psychological safety. But what we are saying here is we need to really look at this safety as a core priority for business, whether it is physical safety or psychological safety. And leaders who promote this, right, or who prioritize safe environments using the set of core values or principles, they will have better ideas, access to ideas, they will have better feedback loops, right? So in a safe environment, when people are feeling safe to try out things, when people are feeling safe to say out things, you will have a very, very good feedback loop, as opposed to in an environment where it is very tightly controlled, right? Especially in an environment where leaders come with the ideas first. Oh, this is my idea, what do you think? What else people will think, right, when you put it on table like that, right? So you have to kind of think through creating a culture of safety where everybody is free to speak and they do not have a fear of retaliation. They do not have a fear of a security hazard or risk in their work environment. That's when you will see high performance. So that's why this is the one of the meta skills. Once you have it, it drives multiple other skills for you as a leader. Effective storytelling, again, it helps you connect with diverse set of people. It empathizes with others, understand behaviors and actions, and decision patterns. Right. Myself, I have used this technique many a times. Right. Especially when I am going to leaders and talking through them. Uh, it never works with them if you're talking a definition of leadership, or if you're talking a definition of certain things with them. When you give anecdotals, when you give stories, when you give scenarios to them, that's when they start to listen you. Same with people, same with large audience, right? Especially when you are very good at storytelling, it can actually change the way people think and act, right? One example I have given is the launch of Apollo, right? When he did that speech, we still watch it on videos, right? That okay, oh wow, what a speech. But it is actually effective storytelling, right? It is actually telling you a story which inspires you to do things that you never imagined you could do. In business context, it connects with the customers, it also connects with the employees, right? So no customer is really interested in your business KPIs. Nobody cares how much business growth you want to drive. What they care about is how are you going to solve their problems. That's what the customers are looking at. Employees, right? They do not care that how we are going to look at a new particular technology or a new particular shiny object. All they care about is my work is aligned with the bigger picture? Is my work is being appreciated? Does the leader know what I am actually working on, right? And when leaders connect these dots together and start telling stories in a cohesive manner, you will see that you are exponentially driving outcomes with the same set of people, right? Most of the time, people as leaders, we think oh, I don't have the right people in my team. Is it? And I want you to ask this question when you go back from this training, right? When you say that oh, I don't have the right people in my team. Is it? Just try to answer that question for yourself. That's my tip for you, effective storytelling. And if the answer is yes, you're not telling this story correctly to people. You're not getting them aligned with your vision. All right. Coaching for performance. High performance organizations are those where leaders are coaches, right? Gone are the days when command and control were the only way to drive outcomes, right? Now, leaders who are coaching people and driving continuous improvements are the ones who are driving culture of growth and continuous learning. Now, here one question I always ask the leaders, and maybe this is one point where I would also urge maybe people to who wants to contribute to this question. A very simple question for you all leaders here, right? How is your team doing? The question is, how is your team doing? Who wants to answer that? It's a very simple question. You answer it every time in a meeting, right? When somebody asks you, hey, how is your team doing? Who wants to go? No one? Team is doing good, Sai. Okay, so Sai is saying team is doing good. So when we talk about team, which team? One word answer, great. So when you're answering this question, which team you are considering? The team that reports into you, or the team that you lead? Right. 99.99% when I ask this question to leaders, they answer it on behalf of the team that report into them. But this question is for the leader and the team that he operates in. It's the highest level of team that they operate in, right? So if you're talking to your managing directors, when I ask them, how is your team doing? It's the team that they operate in, how they are working as a team, as peers. And the analogy is a lot of leaders, in fact, more than 80%, there is a Harvard study on it, why leaders do not work as a team. This is something Bhaskaran is saying my team is awesome. Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing that. And I truly believe that your team is awesome. But when you look at your peers as a team, if they are awesome, you're truly awesome leader. But if you're talking about the team that reports into you, then you have to do a bit of job in getting your peers aligned and making that team awesome as well. Okay, so that's one homework that I want you to take back, coaching for performance. How is your team doing? Ask this question to yourself. And then look at the team that you operate in as a team member, not as a leader. And then answer that question for yourself. All right. Next one, collaborative facilitation. This is a critical meta skill for new normal, especially in the interconnected world, right? Why? Because in many of the organization, no matter what you build, whether you build a small mobile application or a data warehouse or a data lake or a big enterprise application, it doesn't matter the size and shape of the application. What matters is it is all interconnected. You still need to go and collaborate with other teams, other departments, other units, other BUs, right? So as a leader, if you are not a collaborative facilitator, what we mean by it is if as a leader you are not engaging people across the value chain, if you are not making them feel that their ideas are welcomed, especially during when you're talking about priorities which are different from other groups, right? If you're not listening to their priorities and not explaining your priorities to them clearly, there are higher chances of getting blockages or getting things slowed down. If you want to accelerate delivery, the first thing you should as a leader learn is how do I collaboratively facilitate things across multiple different people, multiple different organization, multiple different business units. And it is a very, very difficult meta skill to achieve, right? It takes multiple years of learning and unlearning because sometimes you think it is working, but actually it doesn't work. So you have to learn and relearn again and again because the people that you deal with, they are not constant. The people in ecosystem you operate in, they are changing on a continuous basis. So that's why collaborative facilitation is one of the toughest skill to acquire, right? Very few people can do this effectively. My key point to you or one practical tip to you and the exercise that you can do is think about one of the situation or scenario where you currently operate and list down the things that you are dependent on, and then think about ways how you can bring them together, either in a meeting, either in a workshop, either on a lunch meeting, to actually break the ice and start talking about their work, their area, their priorities, and so on and so forth. Once you do that kind of activity, I can guarantee you it will just multiply your efforts on the collaborative facilitation. All right. So that's the third pillar, meta skills. The last pillar, I know we are just reaching our limit. So performance is something that is, um, I would say, not really, at the forefront when we talk about leadership in many cases because it is very hard, very hard to measure performance for leaders. So what we did, we basically went around and we talked to at least 20 plus leadership coaches and around 50 plus transformation coaches, and also the CIOs, also some of the CTOs and some of the business owners around what does performance for leaders mean. And then what we looked at is we basically have this study that we did at Massivue around what leadership effectiveness and performance looks like, right? So if you see this pyramid is basically, the first one, CXOs and executives, right? So they are looking at organizational climate, right? So what is their focus? Their focus is pretty much strategic. They are very focused on financial outcomes. And whatever decisions they make, that has direct impact on the culture, the systems, the people, and their motivation. The second layer is around the senior leaders and middle level leaders, right? So they are responsible for enablement and the direction, right? So we call them enablement and direction hub. They are the ones who are making sure the translation of strategic outcomes to executional priorities, right? So again, their focus is mostly doing transformation, right? Looking at systemic blockers, connecting the dot, facilitating and orchestrating. That's their focus. The impact that they create is the transformation outcomes, cultural shifts, speed and resilience, and employee happiness, right? So these are some of the impact that they can create if they operate effectively as leaders. Last but not the least, team leaders, managers, and team members, right? So what we see is, again, their focus is teamwork. Their focus is the process, getting the process right, getting the efficiency and quality and speed. Now, some of the impacts that they create is they are the ones who are actually delivering to the end customer. They are the ones who are responsible and driving the quality of the product or quality of the service or quality of the work, right? And they are the cultural absorbers, right? So they absorb the culture in day in and day out. What you think your culture is actually determined and absorbed by all the three layers, right, in some form or shape. So at Massivue, right, when we talk about performance, we go into each of these layers and then we try to demystify this for each of the leader. And that's why when we look at it, right, as a framework or as these four facets which I shared as a, in my adaptive leadership overall compass, right, these four things: vision, value, meta skill, and performance. If you combine this, this is basically giving you an end-to-end view from vision to performance, right? You are closing it end to end using values and meta skills. It helps you throughout the journey, and performance is what gives you the next milestone. It gives you the measures, it gives you a way to look forward, right, and make it real. So this is kind of, a quick summary of adaptive leadership for all of you. Now, quickly, let me share some of the learnings that we have, gone through over last 3 years. That this model actually is very critical for hybrid work models, right? So when you look at the traditional managers in the diagram, I'll focus. They basically are managing more and they are influencing less. But the adaptive leaders are influencing more so that people feel motivated, they feel empowered, they feel energized to work and deliver more, and they manage less, right? So there is high level of trust, high level of collaboration, and high level of cohesion, right? So this is what we have been seeing in the field from last 3.5 years. We have been looking at multiple different clients and teams, and this is something that we found to be really uh, not, I would say, surprising, but this is something that proved our hypothesis that what, adaptive leadership is the way to go forward. Now, going forward, let me quickly run you through the 2-day program. So we just talked about the four facets, right? But that's not all what we do as part of the 2-day program. We have multiple modules, as you can see on the screen. I'm not going to go through each and everything because I want to keep some time for Q&A. But essentially, it talks about the new ways of leadership, creating high performance. How do we drive growth and resilience? How do we create and nurture leaders, and the leadership compass that is part of our adaptive leadership compass, when they assess themselves, create a personal development plan, and so on and so forth, right? So as part of this used to be 6 weeks boot camp previously. Now we have condensed it into 2 days class, but it's still we can run it at multiple different modular classes. So that's why you see that some of this is module based and some of it is 3 hours per module and per week, because the leaders who participate in those workshops and boot camps, they do not have time to sit through 3 days, and even if they do, half of it they will forget the fourth day. So we want to make sure that it sticks with the people. It also is something that is meaningful, and it is something that they can take back and start experimenting with them, right? It is not something that you read in the book and forget. It's something that you take back and you practice. So that's what and how the program is designed. You will be getting the slides on your email address as part of this. What we have seen when we have run these programs in organizations, so most of these certification programs is having a very good score, but beyond that, right, what we have seen is 4x less likelihood of attrition, 3x likelihood of engaging right stakeholders, because you start to think with those meta skills and with those values in the direction which promotes collaborative and cohesive work environment. 2x more likely to achieve a successful negotiation, because now you're using empathy, you're using curiosity, you are using trust factors. Then 6 is more likely to influence outcomes for critical projects. Right now, how did we come to this point? So we have interviewed around 500 plus people across the industry, and these are some of the numbers. So yeah, this I will share the slides with you to take through. But essentially, what I'm trying to say here is this is not something that we put together and we forget about it. We continuously improve this program. We continuously look forward to improve this and also make it more data driven, so that when we are looking at it, the performance aspect of it is not forgotten. One thing that we are very particular about is supporting our leaders who joins this program. So we have something called Massivue Leadership Network. So everybody who joins these classes, they are part of this network, and it's a community for life. So you get invitation to various different exclusive programs, and also it basically creates a shared network where you can freely talk and freely exchange ideas. So it's a closed private community that we have with all the leaders whomever has been part of this program so far, and every new leader who joins the program, they become automatically part of this network. Some of the feedback, so yeah, I'll quickly skip through that. If somebody who is really willing to register for the 2-day course, so we also wanted to make sure that we reward your time and effort today. So we generally do not run any code or any discounts, but this is something that we are basically putting together for this cohort. If anybody wants to register, here is a registration link which you can use to register yourself and express your interest. There is no fee required right now. Our team will reach out to those who submit the form and then do the needful afterwards. So, but yeah, I do encourage, if some of you have found the content useful and want to explore more on adaptive leadership, do join us on our cohort and make it more. I would say evolve it more together. All righty. So this is something about Massivue and how we operate. These are some of our courses. I know we are only 3 minutes, so let's open up for Q&A. Are there any questions in the chat window, Harika or Balaji? Or anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask questions or any inputs, feedback, suggestions? Rachna, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So I wanted to go back to the previous slide with the scan coders. And my question is, well, see, I'm in the coaching space and I already teach communication skills, and I teach it with as a communication as a behavioral skill. So whatever you said today made 100% sense to me, and it's something that I reach out to my coaches who are potential leaders in the making. So would this certification benefit me? Would it increase my learning?
It does.
I can then further, give to my students.
Absolutely. There are two aspects to this, right? So a lot of agile coaches, they reach out to us for this course, and the first question they ask is, hey, I have already done my agile leadership certification or my leadership circle certification. Will this help me? What will it bring to me? So there are two aspects to this, right? So most of the certifications or the courses that we do, which we find outside, right, whether it is from the Scrum body or from other bodies, right, they are very focused on the values and principles of leadership, right? But this is the only place where we club in the performance aspect of it. So we make it real for the leaders. So for example, when we talk about so things that you will learn during this, right, especially in the performance section, how do you talk to technology leaders in their language, right? Which is where most of the coaches struggle, because they might not have the exposure and experience of the challenges that technology leaders face in their day to day. Or how are you going to put a proposition to a business leader to actually train their team, because training is always optional, right, in budget, right? We always keep it at the end. So all those kind of practical scenarios we actually go through collectively, and we then, and there is no one single answer as you would expect, right? That every situation is different. But in the course, and I would share this deck with you, there is a signature movements or signature movement section, right, which is where we capture which is a set of 10 to 15 scenarios, and it changes with every cohort. But what it essentially tells you is all these practical scenarios and how to deal with it as a leader, as a coach. right? So it is definitely going to benefit you and also your team. That as much, and you saw some of the inputs that we got, right? I mean, we have kept it at a very conservative manner. Some people have shared that they have got 500x ROI on this, right? So I mean, even if they save 6 to 8 days on an investment of 2 days, that's 500x ROI on the course. So that's how people actually come back to us. But yeah, so I'm happy to share. I have kept the code for you. One thing I want to share with everybody is, apart from this discount code, I just wanted to share that this is, some of the people have asked for the certification of participation. So this is a feedback form. I highly encourage you to please fill this form. On your screen you can see the code. This is very simple, 3 or 4 question feedback form. What it will entail is, once you fill this in, you will be getting a certificate from us for the participation, and then we will also share you the code in the email, the discount code that we shared. So yeah, this serves two purpose, and also the slide deck that we have shared during the. So please, if you are looking for the slide deck, I would really appreciate if you can fill the feedback form, because that is the only way we will be able to reach out to you back, and we know that you have attended the session. Okay. All right. I think there was another question. Sai, was it you or somebody was raising a hand? Please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Sandeep.
Thank you, Rachna. Appreciate it. Yes, Sai, please go ahead. All right.
Yeah, Sandeep. Yeah, very intuitive session. Especially, I like the performance part, the pyramid that you showed. A lot of synergy to the leadership program that I was working on. Sandeep, I'm not sure whether you recognize me. So
No, I do recognize Sai. Yeah, it's good
okay,
to have
okay.
you here. Thank you for joining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very nice. So very quick question is that this after this 2 days session, right? How is it? Is there, are there kind of follow ups, like homeworks, and how do we ensure that the leaders kind of imbibe all these? What is the feedback mechanism?
Absolutely. So I think the once you do this 2 days course, you are part of the Massivue Leadership Network, right? Which is basically a community. There is a Slack channel for it, which is where we continue to debate, discuss around topics. Number two is we always so the signature movements collection that we have, right? We keep on enhancing it and keep on sharing it with everybody in the circle. So you get to see not just the things that you learn during 2 days, but we continue to evolve that, right? And then this is the kind of certification which do not have an expiry. So we are not after renewing it every year and coming back to you and say, you know what, again renew, again renew. So this is again not a money milking machine for us. This is really, basically impact driven work that we want to create in the industry for the leaders to get benefited and create a cohesive network. So very good question. The community and network is always there, and you can follow up through us, our leaders, our coaches, any point in time. So the feedback loop is always on.
Okay, thanks, Sandeep.
Thank you,
Thanks. It
Sai.
was really worth spending the last 1 hour plus. Very insightful. Always very interesting to talk about leadership topics. You know. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Sai. Thank you. Appreciate it. I see one more hand up, and then I think we will go. Mark, you have a question? Guru has a question. Yeah, Mark, go ahead. Just a minute. Let me unmute you. I have. Yeah, Guru, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, you go ahead. Sandeep, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you, Guru.
Okay, it's Brittany, not me. So Brittany, go ahead.
Yeah,
Hello, Sandeep.
hello,
Thank you.
Brittany.
Hello, thank you for the wonderful course this evening. You asked a question to us earlier. Which leaders have inspired us most?
Yep.
I wanted to know which leaders you've worked with so many leaders across the industries globally. Which leader has inspired you the most and why?
I think Matt Romney, the IBM CEO and president now, and now the ex-CEO, she had inspired me the most throughout my journey. I mean, I'm following her from 2008, even when I kind of started my journey and was working with Microsoft at that point. So one thing that keep on kind of rehashing and kind of revalidating my thought process is that in today's world you need to use assertiveness and curiosity together. So that's what we are also looking at when I put the courage and empathy together, or courage and curiosity together. That's what I saw in Matt Romney throughout the journey. I mean, remarkably the way she used to communicate the vision, remarkably the way she has shifted and pivoted the organization. It's fantastic. So I think that's one leader which I have kind of had the privilege to work very closely during my tenure on different aspects, different works. So yeah, thank you for asking that, Brittany.
Thank you, Sandeep.
All righty, Jeannie, yeah, that's correct. Sai Jeannie, that's correct.
So he
All righty, anything else? No worries. So thank you very much, everybody, once again for spending your precious time with us. Mark, you have a question. Yeah, can we unmute Mark? Let's see how we can unmute Mark.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Mark, we can hear you.
Hello. First of all, I just want to say thank you for the presentation also. Like adaptive leadership, especially now, because the work setting has vastly changed due to these circumstances. I think it's all the more needed. But I do want to pose a question, because I come from a background of being very competitive. Right? I'm a sports fan, right? I'm a sports fan. So you have to draw that line between being empathetic, but at the same time being competitive, trying to orient yourself towards certain goal. How do you strike that balance while at the same time balancing empathy?
This is really good question, Mark, and I think that is why we have the performance section together with all the values and this. So we are not dropping the ball on performance, right? Nobody is saying you to not be competitive, right? But at the same time, when you are competing, are you competing with the right set of values and right set of skills? Right. So we are not saying do not compete. Yes, we have to compete. This is the nature of the world we live in, right? So there will always be competition. But at the same time, I think if you look at any sport team, right, whether it is a basketball team or a soccer team, if you look at how the coaches actually operate through and then help the team become high performing, it is using two things, right? When they create empathy between the team member, and then they create candor, right? Candor is where the team members can share feedback about each other with each other, even when it is risky to do so. That's what candor means, right? Where you can actually subtly share the feedback with the team member, right? So one of the things, like if you see one of the soccer teams which I used to follow, they have this practice of 360-degree feedback every morning. So they, after every match, everybody basically comes together and then they share with each other. Hey, every person talks about everybody else. So basically, yeah. So let's say Mark, it starts and Mark says, hey, you know what, Sandeep, you did this very well. Thank you very much. We love you. And because we love you, may I suggest that next time you try this. So that basically changes the whole tone of the negative feedback that they want to give, right? So there is no negativity in the whole process, but there is this concept of getting the feedback instantly, and we say it's an open 360, or I mean there are multiple names to it, but essentially what we are saying is when you create this momentum, right, where you create this cohesiveness between teams, that's when you get high performance, right? It is a byproduct, it's not the end result. So high performance is always a byproduct, right? When you do all this, you automatically get it. All right, I think we have one more question. I hope that answers your question, Mark. All right, Rachna, please go ahead. Yeah.
No, I don't have a question, Sandeep, but I just want to take whatever you said in reply to Mark's question a little forward. I think empathy, it also gives, a certain freedom of choice and decision making to a person. And when that is given, I don't think the competitiveness comes in the way, and people are more collaborative and cooperative.
Yes, compete with others, not within us. So that's the motto, right? When you talk about empathy, right? So to put is maybe in single word, right? Compete with others, not within us.
And
I
Sandeep,
think that's
if I can,
the goal of,
add,
yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead, Sai. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think going back to that question, how do you manage that empathy versus the coach has to, set the performance? See, the moment you're saying that, hey, look, I understand your situation, but at the same time, I still want you to kind of, I'm not going to lower the bar. So the person hearing this knows that, gets a sense of comfort that, somebody is there with me. They understand the situation. That itself is kind of a motivation. And I've been on both sides of the fence.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And that we saw in action, right, many times. And I mean,
Yes.
me and Sai, we saw this together when
Yes.
you have the support system embedded, right, and that support comes from the values and the meta skills that we talked about, right. And I think if you combine this, it's really, this glue between all this, right, is where, you need to put it all together. So yeah, I completely agree. Thank you for making it so engaging today, and so nice to see so many familiar faces. Thank you for all your support and kindness today, for bearing with me for the last 90 minutes. I hope it was useful use of your time. Please help with the feedback and things that we can improve on in the next session. I look forward to see you more. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you, Sandeep. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandeep.